Welcome back to Business Talk here on businesstech.co.za. As always, I'm your host, Michael Avery, and we continue this series talking about Africa's rapidly evolving payments landscape, a space where innovation is meeting opportunity, but also new challenges and risks. Joining us are two industry experts from Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking, Kent Marais, Head of Payments and Collections in Transaction Banking, and Ontiretse Modise, who is South Africa Head of Cash Management and Transaction Banking. Together, we're going to explore how the payments ecosystem has transformed over the last few years across South Africa and the broader continent, and what lies ahead. Really exciting when we think of the way banks are investing ahead of the curve when it comes to managing payments. And if you're a business, it talks to the very heart of why you're in business, managing your capital, managing your cash flow. And it's a conversation you don't want to miss. So chaps, welcome very much. Kent, maybe you could just kick us off. The payments landscape really has evolved dramatically, no longer the dumb pipes as they once were, so to speak. Could you just take us through the changes in South Africa and Africa as a whole, as well as what changes you believe are still coming?
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for having us. So, I've been in payments for some time now, and I think this is one of the most exciting times to be in the payments business. As you said, no longer the dumb pipes. We've moved from back office in the shadows to at the forefront of, I suppose, three different board tables. Our own board tables from a bank perspective, our clients' boardroom tables, and then regulators see massive advantage that can be gleaned from the payments landscape. And the shifts have been huge, and they've been in multiple different dimensions. If we think about it from a regulatory perspective, there's obviously a deep need to say, how do we enhance financial inclusion? How do we lower the costs of payments? How do we give greater access into the payments system? When we look at it, stability always remains a key issue. There's a lot of compliance requirements that are still needed, and the scrutiny on those continues to increase. From a technology perspective, lots of things around migration to world standards, ISO 20022, which enables all of us to talk together in a more cohesive way. The advent of a whole host of new technologies, whether it's cloud computing, artificial intelligence, software as a service, it provides so many different ways for us to be able to provide payments into the industry. And then customers are becoming more demanding. They're looking for solutions that are specific to them, that are specific to the way they work, that increase their efficiency and also enable them to service their customers in a better way. The competitive landscape, it's becoming more and more competitive, not just from traditional banks. We have all the fintech players, big techs, MNOs, and a whole host of other players that are entering this space. So collaboration between these players is also starting to enhance. No longer fintech seen always as a threat, but they can be partners in certain areas as well. And then there's opportunities for new ecosystems. How do we get and how do we use payments almost as a gateway to get into new ecosystems and new areas of the business that we haven't traditionally played in? And so the whole platform type of concept, payments as a platform to access a whole host of different markets also becomes a key issue. So in summary, payments is a really exciting place to be at the moment. Lots of opportunity, lots of things that are happening.
And that's fantastic because obviously that comes with great new products and services for the end user, be it the merchant. Think about what that means in terms of managing your working capital, being able to ensure that you can be paid immediately for stock and then order new stock and ensure that it's delivered same day, for example. It really does revolutionize business in that regard. But obviously, and Onti, I want to bring you in here, change is often coupled with risk. So what new security risks have emerged as a result of this evolving payments ecosystem?
Thanks, Michael. Kent has covered quite a broad spectrum of the evolution of payments over time. And of course, that brings a lot of complexity, not just for us as banks, but also for our customers. And one of the key items that customers continuously ask us about is whether actually the environment of payments is secured. Quite a number of risks that it includes, particularly as we move to instant payments, where payments are irrevocable, where the certainty of payments, are we actually paying into the right sort of customer accounts? But when putting it broadly speaking, you've got cybersecurity risks. I mean, the advent of cloud computing, the advent of taking a lot of transactions onto the cloud brings a huge amount of complexity for our client. You've got fraud, you've got real-time and monitoring of fraud, risks that you actually have to contend with as a customer as well as a bank. And therefore, in many ways, we're looking to figure out ways of how we protected our customers. I mean, you're looking about data protection issues and risks that customers have to contend with. I spoke about fraud earlier, which is quite predominant in many cases where customers obviously lose money, which they didn't intend to lose. There's a lot of impersonation of characters, people logging onto customers' banking profiles unauthorized. So you're dealing with quite a myriad of topics when you speak about security, you speak about risks that customers have to contend with. And I think ultimately we've got a responsibility as a bank, one, to figure out what then becomes the right tools we enable the bank to put in place to secure customers. How do we give confidence to them in the way in which they must transact with us? And how do we actually make sure that they're secure in the way in which we do it? And of course, banks continue to invest significant amount of money in security. I mean, this is a significant part of us making sure that we don't bring any risk to the payment system, particularly in South Africa. And therefore, continuously looking at technologies that gives confidence to that. I mean, the advent, as I spoke earlier, around real-time payments, it's huge. Instant is now. You've got quite a number of PayShap being the latest being rolled out in South Africa. You've got instant EFT. So customers are looking for instant now. And that means even the way in which we detected fraud in the past has to change. The way we think about real-time monitoring of transactions becomes key. The way we do KYC becomes important in how we actually bring customers on board. So I think it's been broad, but I think between ourselves and our customers, we spent a lot of time ideating, conversating about what does it mean for them, how do they protect themselves, what do we do, who do we bring on board. I mean, Ken speaks about partners that are quite experienced in this space, who are expertise. We lean to them, we bring them into conversations, we bring them in front of our customers for them to figure out. So it's a complex way, and I think the idea that we can solve it by ourselves as a bank is quite limited.
Thanks, Onsi, and to bring you in, Kent, through this lens, and we know we've been on the grey list now, and there's a lot of pressure on the banks to ensure that we can track flows of transactions. We know who the beneficial owners are and that kind of thing. And then you introduce something like PayShap, which is like real-time, instant, and now you've got to be able to vet and verify in real time. So yes, it's fantastic, but it does come with a huge kind of logistical challenge to maintain that security. So how do you think this has improved cybersecurity when Onti speaks about now leaning into maybe some partners that can bring that heft in the space? How have you seen it improve the cybersecurity conversation inside the bank?
So I think it's a couple of fold. I think, as the risks that you face increase, the urgency, the focus within the organization becomes bigger. I think cybersecurity used to be something that people used to think about. It was in the back room. It was in conversations where we had specialists sitting in technology departments opining on what's needed to be done. But because of the financial, sort of the reputational risks that come with these type of incidents, it's elevated itself again, and it's in the boardroom. Senior executives are considering it. It can have massive financial implications on your organization, on your shareholders, on your clients. So this is something that you really need to take serious. So I suppose these risks bring increased awareness. It brings increased investment. And then I think it's the double-edged sword that comes with technology. We have access to greater array of technology, more sophisticated technology. We can use data, we can use machine learning algorithms, we can use AR to help us, protect ourselves and our clients from these type of incidents. But then again, the criminals of today are professional organizations. It's a global world. They have access to huge amounts of talent. They have access to huge amounts of money, and they're sophisticated. And so the technology that we're able to use and the technology that they're able to use are similar, and they're very innovative. If you build a high wall or you put a fence around your house, you can protect yourself for as long as your neighbor's got a lower wall. But as soon as the standard raises, they continue to enhance and to increase sort of what they can do. It all comes down, in my mind, to talent, and how do you get the right people, the right talent that work for your organization, whether they're full-time employees, focused, or as Auntie said, partners. Partnership in this world is fundamental. And we need to embrace those partnerships to say, how do we protect ourselves and our clients from these type of events?
And if you think about, that being a developed economy, it just shows you where the focus and attention now lies. It's on those skills. And if you don't have them internally, then partner with those organizations that do. Auntie, what do you see as the key areas that Standard Bank CIB is now identified when it comes to improving security for your current and also your future solutions? Because I think ultimately you want to maximize this opportunity and the value, but do so while minimizing the risk.
I think the opportunity lies in many areas, and I'm going to spend time on, firstly, I think clients are constantly worried about how they become efficient and how do they actually reduce costs while they're doing business. I think that for them is key. And therefore, we as a bank have to worry about that, and we have to worry about how secure our environment is in enabling that to happen. So I think that's quite important to get right. At the same time, we speak about the world that has actually come forward. It feels like it has come forward earlier than we had planned. I mean, as I spoke earlier around instant and the burden of what instant does, because we speak to treasurers, we speak to CFOs who have to worry about them delivering to their own shareholders, not to worry so much about the bank. And therefore, their sense of responsibility that Standard Bank does on an annual basis is to figure out, what do we do? I think there's a number of programs that we run around hackathon to test our own environments. We invite customers to actually troubleshoot with us. There's a whole host of range of programs that we run to figure out whether actually we've got the right tools. And of course, the ability to go out there and figure out who's the best in the world at these things is important. I think the attitude to continuously learn on who does it best and how do we actually quickly get ourselves up the curve on cybersecurity, on fraud detection mechanisms, who else has it? And I think in many ways, our ability to actually quickly learn and replicate those into our clients' environments has been quite helpful. And a number of our government entities have reached out to us to say, we think you have what we are looking for. We have felt there's been a number of fraudulent incidences in our environment. Could you then lean on and bring some advice on how might we navigate it? So we find that actually the work that Standard Bank does in showcasing its capability to defend against any of these attacks becomes an important conversation in how we deliver value to our customers. So I think it's multifaceted in the way in which we think about it, certainly, because we don't shy away from sharing our learnings, what we've seen happen and what actually potentially could work in their environment for them to also protect themselves.
So building on that, I mean, you've got a Pan-African presence, Africa's largest bank geographically. Auntie, what are the trends that you're seeing regarding security in the payment sector in other countries that perhaps could inform our approach, or maybe be something that we've seen tried, hasn't worked, and say, well, at least we know to avoid that? What are you seeing in the rest of Africa?
Look, I mean, I think Africa, it's interesting enough. I mean, I think the economies in the continent continue to be largely digital. I think there's a lot of mobile that's happening in the continent over the last decade. I think it's exploded there, particularly around payments, as you know. A lot of MNOs that have gone into the continent to really provide payment services over and above their core business around telecom and airtime, as we know, traditional services. But I also find that there have actually been quite a lot of experience learning in countries, because a lot of the countries are also led by what regulations are possible in each of the markets. So a lot of the MNOs would adopt the standards of security that's allowed. And of course, they've got a responsibility to make sure that their standard is above what is the minimum requirements for each of the markets. And I think they themselves have got in, they figured out, for instance, in some of the markets, you can only be allowed to put your equipment on the cloud. Some of the markets is on-prem. And obviously that informs the state of which security you're able to put on your capability as a country. So I think many markets are different. Countries impose different regulations and their requirements of what they consider to be the standard. But I think our view is that we want to hold the higher standards beyond what is prescribed, because then that gives us the confidence that we can actually inform a number of our clients around, we are comfortable in these markets because our standard is beyond what is prescribed by the regulator in the country. We must meet the minimums at the very least, but certainly we hold a much higher standard as Standard Bank.
Yeah, I often liken it to home security. You don't want to be that one house on the street where everyone's got electric fencing and you've still just got a normal wall. You become the soft target. So you've really got to be at the bleeding edge here. Just lastly, Kent, what advice do you have for businesses when it comes to their approach to processing payments moving forward?
So it's a great question, Michael. I think, with the choice we have these days, there's so many different players offering so many different services. They're able to customize their specific solutions to clients. And I think clients need to be just aware around a couple of things. What is it that they actually want to get out? There's a whole host of things. It's around functionality. It's around, being able to make sure that there's the security associated with these solutions. The parties they're dealing with will protect their data and basically that they'll be protected from certain levels of cybercrime. So I think they need to clearly understand what it is they want. They need to set a clear set of criteria against which they want to rank the various different players. And, a lot of people say cost, we got to make this cheaper and we got to make it more efficient for our clients. Cost is key. It's a key area that we focus on, but it's also the quality of the service you deliver. Trust. Yeah. Trust is key. And as an organization, we're fortunate enough to have the resources and the capital to invest in robust systems, robust risk management processes, and a clear set of oversight through various different layers of controls. I think finally, the thing that you also want to consider is the partner that you deal with. You have to have a level of a relationship, rapport. You need to be able to talk to your partners. They need to be wanting to go across the journey with you. Because as we've said, this landscape is changing. Today is not going to be the same as in a year's time. So you need to choose a partner who's willing to go with you on the journey, who's willing to partner you on your business priorities.
Absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't cut corners when it comes to your own security, your personal security, your security at home. And yes, you look for the best value for money, but it doesn't become just about cost. It's about, is this fit for purpose, especially when you're dealing with the lifeblood of your business, and that is your cash flow and capital. Well, that wraps up another insightful episode of Business Talk on Business Tech. A big thank you to Kent Marais and Ontiretse Modise from Standard Bank Corporate Investment Banking, sharing their insights into the shifting payments landscape across South Africa and the continent. And it just shows you that while the evolution is bringing great opportunity, it also does come with new risks, and the steps that Standard Bank is taking to enhance security and some of that practical advice for businesses, just navigating what can be a very complex ecosystem. I think the clear thing for me is that staying ahead in the payment space requires a very proactive approach, balancing the agility that comes with it with very robust security. Well, thanks for tuning in. Stay connected for more conversations right here on businesstech.co.za. Until next time, I'm Michael Avery.